Welcome to Hitting the Ropes Wrestling Podcast. Cheap computer text-to-speech intros sold separately.
Welcome to Hitting the Ropes Wrestling Podcast. This is Alex.
And I'm Matt.
And this is our episode 2. We're going to be reviewing everything that's going on with news, Fyter Fest. We have Raw and Smackdown as well for the week of June 28th to what we are recording right now, which is July 5th. Let's get right into it, Matt. Last week's episode, we started off talking about, obviously, the big news, which was Paul Heyman taking over the executive director role for Raw, and Eric Bischoff, who has yet to pretty much be seen from the rumors we've heard, respectively taking the Smackdown end. We were talking earlier, and we were saying that a good segue into this episode would or something big to talk about would be how the PG era is probably coming to an end. And after this week, especially with Fyter Fest and everything going on, and as we can see from this past Monday's Raw, which of course we'll get into, and parts of SmackDown, it seems like that's kind of dwindling. I'm not sure where you would want to start off with this, Matt. I think obviously the big thing on everybody's mind on the WWE end would have to be that opening segment with Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley doing a Falls Count Anywhere match, if you want to call it that. I mean, obviously we witnessed, and I texted you this when it happened. For those who don't know, Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman had a Falls Count Anywhere match to start off Raw right away. There was no promo, no nothing to start off the show, and they just went into it. They went right into the crowd, these awesome, pretty hardcore spots, if you want to call it that. And then Lashley suplexes Braun on pretty much the entrance ramp to where the Titantron is, and then Braun, of course, plows Lashley through the entire screen. Pyro goes off. Everyone was speechless. I was watching it live and my jaw dropped. You hear Corey Graves drop a holy shit live on TV, which was awesome to hear. I mean, I don't remember the last time we heard anything like that, uncensored at least. We obviously know they have a delay in the truck, and Kevin Dunn, their producer, can kind of stop what they're going to say if they kind of mess up. But this was just, I thought it was an awesome segment. And then, of course, we have Kofi Kingston on SmackDown giving Samoa Joe the finger. We got Maria Mike Kanellis, that whole pregnancy angle, which we'll get into with our Raw review. Maria calling Mike a bitch. And it seems like, from my eyes, this is kind of WWE retaliating against AEW in a way, and also trying to keep their teenage demographics the same, yet grow them at the same time. I mean, to see that opening on Raw, I mean, we all kind of went into that Raw thinking, this is going to be cool. Paul Heyman's going to be on it. But for that to start off with, the rumor of the PG era might be kind of going away soon. My initial thoughts when that started popping up on Twitter and everything, I thought that's definitely happening right now. What are your initial thoughts on everything, Matt? Do you think it's going away? Do you think it's coming? And obviously, what was your thoughts on the whole Braun and Lashley moment as well?
Well, if we look at when the PG era started, it started on July 22nd, 2008, when officially all WWE television was PG. That was 11 years ago that was made. So those individuals that they were trying to target are now 11 years older. And if you think about all those little kids they're trying to target, now they are teenagers. And I know even when I was a kid, 8 to 9, 10, through my teens, I was looking for a little bit more edgy style of wrestling. That's why I think a lot of people liked ECW and the Attitude Era specifically. But maybe it's just a result of them adapting to their demographic that they tried to reach out to 10 years ago, and now they're a little bit older and they need to change things up a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I can see when I started getting very into pro wrestling, it was around, I'd say, I watched it here and there in the late 90s and early 2000s, but I guess 2003 to 2005 was when I was very big into it until obviously recently. And I remember at the time I was, only 9, 10. You had some pretty risky stuff going on even then for a kid my age to watch, I mean, I talked about this on the last podcast about the, Playboy bra and panties match. But, as I got older, as the product kept progressing, and obviously, John Cena becoming the top guy, it's like it started just becoming, kind of, cartoonish, commercials, like promos. They'd have these promos like, I don't know, I can't give an example. I guess like you think of like a top guy like John Cena going, I'm gonna get you tonight, and I'm gonna win back that title right after I finish this bowl of Fruity Pebbles. And it's like, what? Like they're inserting products in that. So after that happened, I was like, man, I don't want to watch this. Like it doesn't have to be all blood and gore, but I just dwindled off of it. And obviously, the resurgence of the independent scene got me back into it. But I think that's right. You look at, especially their product going down so much lately. And then you think about it like, these kids are getting older, like they're teenagers now, and teenagers aren't interested in the New Day anymore. We love the New Day. Everybody loves the New Day. They're hilarious. But the last thing a 15, 16-year-old kid wants to see is Xavier Woods coming out with a trombone throwing pancakes into the fucking crowd. Like the people like us appreciate the hell out of it, but when you're a teenager, you don't want to see that. You want to see moments like Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman. You want to see edgier content. You want to see what you're feeling as that angsty kind of teen. And I think, especially with everything going on with AEW kind of, pulling out, every trick in the bag to kind of be like, you know what, we're so different from WWE. We are the top alternative for them. I mean, it's no surprise to me now that, not only with getting new executive directors and new writers and everything and the call-ups, they got to do something to keep that demographic the same, because as we can see from not only just the ratings, but ticket sales at the same time, that's going down tremendously and quite frankly, pretty quickly too. So I think, it's exciting. Like we always talk about how exciting it is to be a fan right now. And I think especially with this PG era of WWE going out, I don't think it'll get to the point where it's bra and panties matches again or shit like that.
No,
but
I don't think it should be.
It shouldn't be at all. I that at the time, you're thinking the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah, that's the whole Girls Gone Wild bullshit. Like, yeah, I can see why. But now it's like, we don't want that. We want good wrestling, but we also want to be like, if you put ourselves in those shoes, like we want like to see like once in a while, we want to see a bar fight kind of, wrestling match where it's not just, the regular spots and then it's, they flew over the top rope and the 1, 2, 3. It's like, we want to see them go after each other as if like, you put us in our shoes. Like, we're not going to do a moonsault over a top rope if we're in a bar fight. We're going to go after the guys, and that's what I think we want.
Well, I think that's what they gave us on the opening match of Raw. And I talked about them underutilizing Bobby Lashley last week's podcast.
Yes.
And I thought that going into this match, I was like, oh no, another Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman match, going to be terrible. Then I've come to find out it was a false count anywhere. I'm like, okay, that's a little interesting, a little different now. No tug of war, no arm wrestling, none of that bullshit. And then, they made him look really strong. And like both superstars, in my opinion. And then that whole going through the LED screen, I mean, I know we were texting each other back and forth. We were looking on Twitter. We're looking at different angles, other perspectives of what actually happened to see if it was legit or real. Obviously, we know it was most likely a work. But still, I mean, at that moment, the questioning of was it kayfabe or was it real, I think is the kind of things that we need in current WWE. Put a little bit more edge on it. And I like how they just sold it as that LED screen was just completely broken. The rest of the night, it was just blacked out. We didn't have to, they didn't go out there and fix it right away. Not that was pretty cool, too. Just to kind of let the show roll on with that. I wish they would have left some of the lights off, too, to make it look even a little bit more dramatic. And then like, man.
I was hoping they would just keep the whole Titantron off the entire time. Like everything LED on the screen. Like when the... I don't even want to call them the Viking Raiders. I know them as the War Raiders, and that's what they're going to stay as in my name. When the War Raiders came out for their tag match right after, it was just black everything with the spotlight, and I was like, and obviously, they brought it back on the Titantrons and LED, but the whole time I was like, man, like keep that off. Like that is like, that is awesome. Yeah, you got to sell it. And of course, the whole rumor going up all around that is also they're rebuilding a whole new set and everything, which I think is a kind of a good, especially for a moment like that to kind of rebuild. But yeah, I think especially like, you talk about just PG going away. that was such a good way to kind of kick it off. And obviously with seeing, I feel like that, they had to have watched Fyter Fest and seen, especially that chair shot, which of course is the famous, if you want to call it the chair shot heard around the world, as I'm calling it. But when that happened, it was kind of like, oh shit, like we haven't seen that in 10 years, 12 years. So I think it's definitely WWE retaliating at this point, to try to not, I wouldn't say so much retaliating, because there is an element to that, because we're at, they're in a wrestling war right now, whether they like it or not, and whether they want to deny it and everything. This is what's going on. But yeah, obviously keeping teenagers interested and that whole thing. I think it's going to bring, especially with Paul Heyman of all people running Raw, I think it's going to bring some awesome, not only matches, but segments too, to kind of give creative freedom, because we all know Paul Heyman's about that. So if you think about it, I want to ask you your thoughts on this. With the PG era now kind of dwindling as quick as it has been within the past week, do you think this brings up an opportunity for raunchier segments, or segments we're going to be like, oh man, what was that? Or do you think it's going to kind of be the old stuff we loved mixed with the great wrestling that we have now?
I'm hoping they keep it a nice balance of the things that we used to love and, the great wrestling paired with it. I don't need to see a bra and panties match. I don't need to see women being, the negative part of WWE and just underutilized completely.
Yeah.
And I think they have definitely, the women's era had led to a lot of great wrestlers, and we can see exactly what wrestlers could do, which is why Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, and Charlotte ended up main eventing WrestleMania. And that's just 3 wrestlers of WWE that have full potential to. I mean, there's other women on the roster who are fully capable of doing other great things. I mean, Sasha Banks, who hasn't been around in a while, we're not sure what the deal with her contract currently is, but obviously she's one of those NXT, WWE wrestlers that proved herself to be amazing, main eventing Hell in a Cell with Charlotte, which I thought was pretty cool. We got a lot of potential on the roster, and that goes through NXT UK, and WWE in general. And I would hate to see them start to go back to what it was 10 years ago. And frankly, I don't think they can, because the way that America has shifted and the world has shifted completely, and what we deem appropriate and what is inappropriate.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that's, a good segue into something we were kind of wanting to talk about. You talk about the women's evolution and everything like that, with they're not even allowed to wrestle in Saudi Arabia. And I think that's a good segue into what we're about to talk about. You wanted to mention, you wanted to talk about their contract, WWE's contract with Saudi Arabia. I think they've put on 2 shows so far, or is it 3?
It's
honestly quite
It's
mistaken.
3 so far. The Greatest Royal Rumble, Crown Jewel, and Super Showdown.
Ah, yes, that's right. Yeah.
And there's another one coming up in November 1st.
Oh, in November. Okay, I wasn't even sure. Matt, how long is their contract for? I believe it was 3 years, or I know it's like a yearly kind of deal. For some reason, the numbers 3 or 10 are popping up in my head, so I'm not really sure.
10-year strategic multi-platform partnership between WWE and the Saudi General Sports Authority in support of Saudi Vision 2030. So I suppose it's a 10-year contract.
Oh my God, that's just I don't know how that's gonna go. I mean, obviously we all know what they're in it for at the end of the day, but I think I don't know if this was a good move by them. Obviously, them getting the contracts, and everything in these shows. Quite frankly, the Greatest Royal Rumble I thought was like kind of like a fun house show. I was watching it and I was like, okay, like what, like it was still fun to watch. Crown Jewel, and then I watched some parts of Super Showdown. Obviously, the Goldberg Undertaker match, which I was just shaking my head the whole time, like this is not good. I don't know if this is I don't know if they can break contract, obviously, with the money involved and all that, and the corporations they're working with. But obviously, I don't see it as a bad thing necessarily of them working with Saudi Arabia. I just think at this point in time, I don't think it's the right point in time and place, quite honestly, for them to be working with them. I mean, you look at their government, how it's very facetious, and women are not allowed to perform. And obviously, Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to overturn a country in one night. And obviously, a company like WWE is not going to change everything just by coming in for one show once every 6 months. But I think, honestly, I don't see them going on another 2 years with Saudi Arabia. For some reason, I have this weird thought in my head where they're going to break contract with them, especially over fan backlash. I mean, obviously, they're going to have all the money in the world given to them by the Saudi government. And when we look at the Saudi government covering up the murder of a journalist, and we look at, women I think the first woman this year was allowed to get a driver's license in Saudi Arabia, which blew my fucking mind. I was like, holy shit, like they're not even allowed to drive over there. So yeah, I give it 2 more years, quite honestly, because the fan backlash from everything has just been immensely negative. What do you think is going to happen in the future, and do you see it maybe improving by any chance?
Looking at some of the things that have happened with their contract, during their contract, women are allowed to attend, but then you must have a male guardian. But
really,
regardless, that's a step in a direction that women are able to attend. And we saw in the Super Showdown, there are a lot of women and little girls in the crowd as well. Renee Young being on commentary, uncovered. Her body was completely, covered up with long sleeves and everything, but regardless of that, her face was uncovered, her hair was uncovered, and that's definitely a step in the right direction. And then we had the potential of Natalya versus Alexa Bliss. However, we both know that did not happen. And I feel like this is where WWE should kind of draw a line on certain things, right? They should. I'm not sure what is written in their contracts, but these are superstars that you have signed to your company.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're trying to make money, or you're trying to make a point that you should allow women to wrestle, and maybe like put your foot down and be like, no, these women are part of my company and they're going to wrestle. And I think that's what WWE should have done. And if they refuse to, go to a country that's going to appreciate it. Have Super Showdown in another country that would gladly accept. Go to the UAE, where Sasha Banks wrestled over there. Go to a country that's more progressive and allow them to show the world what WWE can put on and what these wrestlers can do. There's also other restrictions that kind of tick me off a little bit, and that's Sami Zayn. He's not even allowed to wrestle there just because he's Syrian descent, which is also blows my mind completely. And then there's a whole list of wrestlers who are refusing to go there. We know as a result of the killed journalist, and when you have a lot of your main superstars like Daniel Bryan, John Cena, refusing to work over there, I think that says a lot too. And I would just prefer, if I was in a company, that they would have a stand and be like, we're with this group of people. And I also find it ironic that WWE is a company that is pro LGBT rights. They've definitely made it. Pride Parade they had going on. Sonya Deville was there. You constantly have Finn Balor, Instagram tweeting that Balor Club is for everyone. He even took that picture in Super Showdown.
I was gonna say he took that picture on the entrance ramp, I believe, with his Pride shirt.
Yeah, and if you have this mentality in your company, yet you're working with a country that severe human rights abuses on that in that group of people in general, and I think that's outrageous that you would even be willing to work with them. I mean, that's just my opinion.
I think you made a good point about kind of putting their foot down and saying listen, not that it's, it's WWE's way or it's the highway, but at the same time, if the country of Saudi Arabia is saying, come over here, we have a vision to make equality and progress and everything, WWE should tell them, like, listen, like, we're going to come over there, we're going to have a women's match. Guess what? It's going to happen eventually. If you don't like it, metaphorically, Saudi Arabia, might as well rip the Band-Aid off right now and it'll be over with, and then we can continue. And just even think about what, like, if they had a women's match over there, whether it, you had women over there who are citizens of that country, whether they're WWE fans or not, to have that happen, that is such a historic moment. I mean, I'm not even sure I'm sure Saudi Arabia has, an Olympic team. I'm not even sure if maybe women are allowed on their Olympic team. I mean, if women in the WWE are not even allowed to perform coming from another country in Saudi Arabia. I mean, I'm kind of curious to see if they even have an Olympic team with women, athletes on that. But I think you make a good point where it's, kind of putting their foot down, because that would just be a historic moment. And they could, if I was in their shoes, I'd be like, listen, I understand you don't like it. You guys, this is against, what you do here, but guess what? Rip the Band-Aid off, metaphorically, if you want to do it, because this is going to happen eventually. You might as well do it now when it's in the heat of the moment, where you have such negative press, negative fan reactions to them doing shows there. That would just boost it so much. And not only that, boost morale for their citizens, their female citizens at the same time in that country. So I like I was saying, I honestly give it 2 years, and then something's going to kind of break the camel's back, where WWE is just going to say, this isn't the right move for us, and this never kind of was the right move. And whether that sounds cynical or me having a negative mindset on it, I just don't see it, especially from these past 3 shows, of what else could improve on it. Because at the end of the day, they're just glorified house shows, and as fun as they are, and they're great money for everybody, even the performers, if you think about it, this last one that just happened, the Super Showdown, the rumors and the reports coming out, especially from Dave Meltzer, was saying that the morale backstage was so low, and everyone was like, this is not worth it. I mean, if you think about someone in maybe a Battle Royal or a Greatest Royal Rumble, it's like, imagine someone flying, 20 some odd hours to go to a country, and it's, okay, you're here. Okay, you're going to have to wait 6 hours after the pre-show, and then we're going to have the Royal Rumble, and 6 hours when you're up, and then you're going to get eliminated within 10 seconds. Like, I would not want to fucking do that at all. And I think, especially, like I was saying, the negative press, the negative crowd reaction is going to take it away. I think, superstars are kind of going to put their foot down at the same time and maybe not do a strike, but say, like, you know what, we're not going over there. Like, we do not want to do this at all.
Yep, I think it's just a contract that will hopefully either dissolve and go away, like you said, or it will turn into something better, and maybe this country will actually open up. Obviously, you can't decide what the country's going to do. They make their own rules, just like people can't tell the United States what they're going to do. But WWE is an American company, and they are, I think, a great representation of America, and the United States is, what everyone strives to be. And I think hopefully opening up to a country like that, they will allow, some of these superstars to start wrestling over there, specifically women and members of the LGBT community. Like, fuck it, man. I would put Sonya Deville out there just to throw it in their face.
Oh, God. I'm pretty sure that arena would just go up in flames if that happened. That'd be fucking awesome.
And then if they didn't, I would just, if they wouldn't let it happen, I would pull out of my deal. And I would, like I said, I would go to another country, go somewhere in Europe, fuck it, go somewhere in Africa. That's going to allow it to happen.
Absolutely. And like I was saying, the morale for this kind of going on between WWE and Saudi Arabia, the backstage, morale is pretty much, it's been at an all-time low this past year, couple years, whatever. And you know what? I think it's a lot of mistakes of WWE kind of jumping the gun just for money, or kind of just going after something right away. I mean, and we talk about stuff like that. I mean, if you look at what happened recently with Kenny Omega tweeting about how WWE is going to be streaming one of the Evolved specials from Philadelphia the same night as the Fight for the Fallen, AEW's next special, which is coming up next weekend. You kind of look at stuff like that, and you kind of wonder, is it a good move? Like, why would you stream it that night? Why not wait till the night after, kind of, not stream it live, but kind of film the whole show, make it look nice and proper and everything to kind of even boost Evolve's production. But you look at stuff like that. I mean, Kenny Omega tweeted, let me read it right here word for word, that was eventually deleted. If lining your pockets with blood money is okay, obviously referring to their Saudi Arabia contract, then what's wrong with trying to undermine a charity show for victims of gun violence? I hear that healthy competition is supposed to be a good thing, and yet I can't help but feel like I'm going to be sick. Obviously, he deletes the tweet and then rebuttals with, I've said my piece and opened a door to a very toxic environment. It wasn't a message to the fans or the boys, just the decision makers, obviously the higher-ups in WWE. I wish everyone wrestling on any show that day the best, that is all. It kind of feels like Kenny Omega being he, said kind of what we all were kind of thinking when it comes to maybe not so much them streaming the Evolve show the same night as Fight for the Fallen, which is kind of like, yeah, it puts a sour taste in your mouth, but, competition, whatever. But especially, lining your pockets with, blood money. At the end of the day, you look at what's going on in Saudi Arabia and all the examples. Even, there was even news reports coming out when this contract was signed. I don't see it being a good thing for WWE. And Matt, let me ask you this. Do you think it's going to be one of the things where eventually, whether it's over when the contract's up in 10 years, or if they kind of stop it, like I was saying, I give it 2 years. Do you think it's kind of a stain on WWE's mattress that they're kind of going to try to overturn and flip over the mattress so no one sees it?
I don't really know. I honestly don't even know how to comment on that on that question. But as far as WWE putting the Evolve special on the same time of Fight for the Fallen, I'm not sure if that is 100% intentional, slap in the face to Fight for the Fallen, because who knows what, WWE has a contract with Evolve. They're doing their thing. Evolve is obviously their own independent thing, but they just have a lot of superstars they work with. They pull from there and they bring into NXT. They could have had this date assigned in there already. I mean, it's just the same way that a lot of NXT dates, the NXT UK event coming up is the same day as an AEW show, but
for All Out on August 31st, I believe.
Right. So, I mean, I don't think WWE intentionally said, "Oh, we're going to put NXT UK the same day," and who cares? They're not even at the same time. The thing too is, like, if you want to watch an Evolve special, it's going to be on the WWE network for you to watch at any time after it airs. But
right.
Fight for the Fallen, you have to watch live if you want to see it live.
Yeah.
I did think Kenny Omega's tweet was kind of interesting. It's the only time I've actually seen him kind of, get a little political in terms of AEW versus WWE. But I think it was a wise move to try to delete the tweet. However, everybody knows that once you tweet something, it's going to be on there forever, for eternity. So
yeah,
people
whether
obviously
it gets deleted or not.
Yeah, people are going to screenshot it. I guess overall, though, Alex, I'm a no comment on that situation.
No comment. All right, I'll take that. Matt, is there any other news or rumors? I think this is a good segue, especially talking about Kenny Omega, to go into our Fyter Fest kind of review and moments about that. Any news or rumors that you would want to discuss before we head over there?
Other than a couple big contracts coming out from WWE, Jinder Mahal signs a new multi-year contract with WWE. He also was injured recently, so we might expect to see him gone for a little bit. Mojo Rawley, someone who's only been on TV a little bit, with those unique kind of vignettes with the drawing all over his face of broken glass or whatever the hell it's supposed to be.
Broken Mojo.
Yeah, he signed a new multi-year contract as well. And additionally, Mike Kanellis and Maria Kanellis recently signed new multi-year contracts, about $500,000 a year.
Yeah, it was roughly around there when I heard the news about that.
Some news that came out recently on Raw, when we get to our Raw review, we'll cover about their announcement and when WWE found out about that.
All right, guys, we're going to head over to our AEW Fyter Fest review. Okay, I'm pulling up the match card right now. I thought it was overall, we had a pretty good show. It was a solid show. Took place, obviously, this past weekend. What was the date? Let me look it up here. So AEW's Fyter Fest took place on June 29th, this past Saturday. Overall, Matt, I enjoyed the hell out of this show. It didn't feel as if kind of a big pay-per-view like they've had before with Double or Nothing or respectively All In before it was, AEW itself. But quite honestly, I enjoyed this show a lot. I'm pulling up our scorecard. You can edit this out. Just give me 1 second. Get into my email.
It's also interesting. Fight for the Fallen is July 13th, and Extreme Rules is
the following day,
right
July
after
14th? Oh, shit.
It is. It's right after, yeah.
All right, so, yeah, I thought the show overall was... I had fun watching it. I enjoyed it. There was obviously... The pre-show I felt was a little bit weak with the... I'm not a fan of this whole librarian gimmick. I thought Allie is great. She was awesome in Impact and put on a great match, but the librarian gimmick wasn't really working for me. I get why they're trying to do it and have kind of fun with it, but you could just tell the crowd was not into it, especially when you hear chants like "hooked on phonics." I was laughing my fucking ass off at that one. The pre-show I thought was the pre-show was still fun to watch. Besides that, the Best Friends, SoCal Uncensored, which he had Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian respectively on the team, and then Private Party, who I had seen live when I saw Moxley versus Darby Allin. That match, honestly, was a fucking awesome way to kick it off, especially for a pre-show to get people invested in the product. And then we had
Yeah, I think that was one of the best matches
I'll agree
of
with
the
that,
night.
absolutely.
I mean, and I watched a little bit of the AEW stuff on YouTube, talking about Private Party and who they were, and how they met as friends, and just now seeing them seeing them wrestle for the first time on AEW, and pulling out some unique moves, some high flying stuff. SoCal Unleashed as well, or Uncensored, sorry. SoCal Uncensored, doing a great job showing their veterans, showing that they are the veterans in that match. I thought was a nice balance between some guys that are, just in their early 20s, I believe, and then Trent Beretta and what's his name, Chuck Taylor, just coming in and kind of just stealing the show right there. I thought the match was overall great. A nice balance between all of the tag teams, no outside interference. I thought that was good, and it's just from start to finish, it was just nonstop. And
absolutely.
I thought it was great.
I thought it was a great way to kick off the show. Then, of course, we had Allie versus Leva Bates. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Doing her whole librarian gimmick. Allie, I think, is going to be a very, very big star in AEW, and of course, her match coming up at Fight for the Fallen, she's going to be going against Brandy Rhodes. I've been seeing a lot of vignettes on YouTube and of Brandy training, so that'll be a fun, interesting match. I'm not sure if that won't be the pre-show or the main show or not yet, but we'll see. And then, of course, we had Michael Nakazawa defeating Alex Jabali, who is, of course, the president, the CEO of CEO, which is a gaming corporation that puts on competitions. It was funny. There was a lot of flack on Twitter about this match. People saying, what the hell is this? This guy's in selling. This guy has only, I think, wrestled one match, and he kind of does it for fun. This, of course, closed out the pre-show. I thought this match was so fun to watch. I mean, you had the spots where he pulls out, Legos or Funko Pops or something, and it's, reenacting tax. It was just so fun to watch, and it definitely got the crowd warmed up, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a bag of arcade buttons.
Okay, now that is fucking awesome, because I was looking at that at the time going, that's not Legos. Maybe it's Legos. Maybe it's the Funko Pops. I don't know what it is, but now that you mention that is, God damn it, that is great fucking storytelling. Great storytelling. After that, we had Shima going against Christopher Daniels, of course, from SoCal Uncensored. This match, let me pull up my score. I honestly thought the match was okay at best. I understand a lot of people are going to be like, okay at best. I think I gave it an 83 out of 100. Matt, you giving it an 80, and then our other reviewer, Colin, giving it an 80 as well. I thought the match was all right for what it was. I think it could have been a little bit better on both ends, especially from Shima's end. Obviously, them putting him over because he's going against Kenny Omega at Fight for the Fallen. I think honestly, I think we're gonna see a lot more of Shima, especially him going against Kenny Omega at the next show because they're gonna want to, obviously I think they're gonna put Kenny over at Fight for the Fallen, but Shima did pretty well. What was your thoughts on that match?
I thought it was a good match, but good. It wasn't fantastic. It didn't blow my mind away. I kind of had a feeling Shima was gonna win, just like you said, going against Kenny Omega afterwards. You kind of expect that he would be victorious in this match. Otherwise, it's gonna make him look bad if he's gonna go in facing Kenny Omega, who is probably, the best wrestler alive today.
Absolutely.
And it's not the first time they wrestled each other. They do have very good chemistry. It was smart working, and I think they showed that pretty good. Just the outcome, the incentive, there was none, and I think that's why I would just give this a good overall for it.
Yeah, I mean, the next match after that was Rio, Yuka, and Nyla Rose in a three-way match. And honestly, I thought that this match should have kicked off the show instead of Shima versus Christopher Daniels. I mean, no disrespect to Shima and Christopher Daniels, but it kind of felt like what I kind of call a cool-down match, where you see this great opening match and it gets you pumped and there's tons of great spots like this three-way match was, especially Nyla Rose going off the top rope to drop a knee on, I think it was Rio, when she was leaning on the top rope in the middle of the ring. And the Shima match kind of just felt like a cool-down match where I honestly thought this three-way match should have gone to kick off the show, quite honestly, because I enjoyed the hell out of it. I mean, I gave it a 90 overall out of 100. I mean, there was some great spots, and it definitely seems like, you hear about how AEW is wanting to build up the women's roster and kind of, keep the women's revolution, whatever you want to call it, going, even, that's respectably kind of WWE's trademark, if you want to call it that. To be quite honest, I think they're doing a great job of taking these, you look at someone like Nyla Rose, who's obviously very big on the United States independent scene. But you take people like Rio and Yuka, who are coming from, Asia and coming over. I think that they're doing not only a good job of getting these talents who maybe no one has heard of before, which I never had heard of them before, Double or Nothing, and kind of taking these, taking these women wrestlers and just kind of being like, you know what, like, you're not going to be the front page, or the men aren't going to be the front page. You're all going to be the front page and treated equally. What are your thoughts on them kind of, do you think that them and WWE are kind of doing the same thing, or do you think one is doing it better than the other? What are your thoughts on AEW's women's revolution, if you want to call it that?
Well, I think when it comes to this case of this match, the two Japanese standouts it's very similar to what we've seen in WWE. Obviously, WWE has gone and done their scouting over in Japan and have signed some significant members of either New Japan or the indie scenes over in Japan over there. It's just Asuka, to name one of them, Io Shirai,
Kairi Sane as well.
Kairi Sane. A lot of, they're pretty much doing the same thing. And I think the WWE's method is just a little bit different. They're going to throw them down in NXT, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, NXT sometimes, and for a while, has been better product than WWE's main roster.
Yeah, I mean, if you even look at the cage match that we were talking about last week with Io Shirai and Shayna Baszler, it was like that was probably one of the best steel cage matches I had seen overall. I mean, that might be either the top one or the top five for sure.
Yep, and I think AEW is doing the exact same thing with their Japanese stars. You have Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega, who spent a lot of time over at New Japan and doing great things over there, making connections and making friends that they want to bring over to the United States and Canada probably, to have them do shows over here and sign him up over here so the world can see that these are some of the best wrestlers that are around today, and we're going to give them to you in a different platform. It doesn't have to be through New Japan. It doesn't have to be through WWE. And I think they're both doing the same thing.
Yeah, and I
just
think
different shows.
Oh, absolutely. And I think at the same time, I mean, we talk about AEW and WWE specifically, but I think overall, just even in the independent scene and worldwide, the women have been obviously so underutilized since the time women started becoming professional wrestlers. And now it's kind of like their time to shine. And there's a lot of times where, you know, even this match specifically, I thought it was one of the matches that stole the show at the same time.
100% agree. What did I give this match? If you have your match card,
you gave this match a 90, which is the same as me. I thought that was, you know, out of the Meltzer scale, probably a 4.5 out of 5. It was just overall just a fun match, and like I said, I think this would have been great to kick off the show.
Especially because, like you said, I didn't know who any of these people were. You might have a little bit more experience with maybe Rose, but I didn't know who anybody was, and I just watched it from start to finish. That was a fun match. I had a blast watching it. I think that's one of the matches that my girlfriend, who doesn't even watch wrestling too much, she was actually invested in it too, and she thought that match was a way better women's match compared to the opening one that we saw in the pre-show.
Absolutely. And then going into another match that was a highlight of the show, I enjoyed this next match, which was Adam Page, Jimmy Havoc, Jungle Boy, and my fucking guy, who I think is going to be the biggest heel of all time, mark my words, MJF, baby. I thought this match was awesome. I enjoyed the hell out of it for a 4-way match. Jungle Boy, I think, stole the show in his performance out of all of them. But MJF's promo at the beginning, oh man, that got me so invested. I mean, when they're chanting, you suck, da-da-da-da. And it's like, what do you say to that? You know, most heels are like, yeah, shut the hell up. Let's start the match and I'll show you who sucks. And instead he just goes, oh yeah, your mom's basement that you live in, she swallows. And I was like, this is it. This is my fucking guy. This match, I overall enjoyed the hell out of. Anything with MJF, obviously, I'm going to be a big fan of. Adam Page is starting to grow on me immensely quick. Jimmy Havoc, wasn't really familiar with him. He had some pretty good spots that I liked. I think, obviously, he's going to be a big star in AEW. But Jungle Boy, for me, man, his spot stole the show and just showed exactly what he can do and be a big player, even though he is one of the quote-unquote smaller guys. Your thoughts on this, Matt?
I thought this match was fun. Definitely that MJF coming out and doing his little promo was the biggest highlight of the match, I thought. You know, the crowd chanting shit at him just going back and forth with them, and then the camera panning over to that one poor guy in the crowd.
Oh my god!
After he called everybody.
Yes, that was the best.
After he called everybody a virgin.
Dude, that's why that whole promo, I was just loving the absolute hell out of it. Like,
and I thought that it was enough edginess to just give us a little bit of, ooh, this guy's a heel, this guy is bad, like this guy, he's full of himself, and
they're definitely at this point gonna try to build him up to be the biggest heel in the company for sure, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, and then when he has that title, he is going to get booed out of every arena, but he is going to be leaving with a smile on his face because he is doing his job.
And you know damn well when he's getting booed that hard, I have a feeling they're going to go out, let him go out there and just say whatever the fuck you want. Just go for the thrill for them. And you know he's going to have so much fun once he has that title around his waist.
Yeah. Well, no one's putting a script in front of him. You know, maybe he rehearses a couple lines backstage of what he wants to say, but no one's putting a script in front of him word for word and say, you need to read this, you need to read that.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, you're going to have some consequences. Instead, it's go out there and be MJF.
Yes.
I'm not gonna say be yourself. I don't think that he is truly 100% MJF all the time.
Yeah, he's definitely not living the gimmick for sure.
But he's definitely, he has a part of that he's going to he's gonna do all the time, and whether it's on Twitter, whether it's out in public, he's gonna. I think he will live the gimmick to a certain point,
Yeah.
but no one's telling him go out there and be this individual who is not who he created and not what he wants to do.
It's a very organic kind of thing and feel, especially coming from the character he wants to portray.
Right. I thought the match though was fun. Last week I predicted who would win, so that kind of brought my score down a little bit for it, just because I knew that Adam Page was going to be victorious, just going into Fight for the Fallen and All Out.
Yeah. I definitely think they're going to try to, especially putting Adam Page in the title scene right away. Kind of pretty much from the start, even when they announced Double or Nothing and the whole AEW press conference, they're definitely going to make him the kind of homegrown guy. You look at someone like Cena, I think he's going to be the John Cena, the top guy of AEW, to be quite honest.
You don't think it's going to be Cody?
I don't think it'll be Cody at all. I mean, I think he's got enough wits in him to kind of say, like, you know what, I own the company, but I'm not going to put myself in front of everybody. I mean, but that's the thing. You bring up Cody, and Cody has talked so highly about Hangman Adam Page in so many interviews that I could just tell right away, like, they're going to make this guy the homegrown guy, the homegrown babyface guy. MJF.
There's no way that Cody doesn't have the championship at one time in his career over there.
Oh, he definitely will, but he definitely will, no doubt, and he will do great over there for sure and win a lot of shit. But I think at the same time, he's obviously smart enough to know that he's not going to want to. He doesn't want kind of the Roman Reigns effect where he's in every big scenario and winning every big championship, and it just dwindles. It dwindles you out for sure. I mean, you look at someone like Baron Corbin, who could be a top player, but putting him in every scenario is just like, all right, like, we don't want to hear this shit at all. But I think they're definitely going to build Adam Page up to be the homegrown babyface AEW guy. But at the same time, I completely think that MJF is going to be the homegrown big heel of that company. Like, you give that guy one more year, it's just going to go, it's going to be awesome. I think he might be the dirty version of Adam Cole, which may sound pretty crazy to say, but
at some time, he is going to turn on Cody, or Cody's going to turn on him. And I think when that happens, it's going to be because of a title.
Yeah.
And, I hope it does play out that way. I don't think MJF needs friends, even though his friendship and mentorship with Cody Rhodes is kind of, that's a little skeptical, I believe.
I mean, even him coming out after Cody did the whole chair shot, which we'll get into, I was like, oh, that's a kind of good way to play on the character for sure.
Yeah, but I guess that's a good segue into the next match, which was Cody versus Darby Allin.
Yes, I thought this match, I'm pulling up my notes on it right now. I enjoyed this match for the sake of, I didn't think it was an awesome wrestling match. I loved it for the fact that, one, it was a draw at the end. Two, Cody was trying to build up and has built up Darby Allin so well in the time of leading up to this match. And I think definitely they're trying to give Darby Allin kind of like the psychopathic, he'll do anything, he's fucking nuts kind of Jeff Hardy deal in AEW. And I enjoyed this match a lot. There was obviously some really great spots. I mean, you look at the spot where Cody was kind of on the outside of the ring, but still on the kind of apron part, the hardest part of the ring as they call it. And Darby Allin does that kind of coffin jump where he just kind of crosses his hands and tries to go backwards, and he just took the biggest fucking bump off that top rope. And I saw that, and I think I might have woken my roommate up because he's sleeping upstairs, and I'm going, oh! Like I was just so loud about it because I was like, holy shit! Like that was such a hard bump. What do you think about this match, man? I mean, obviously, we all know what Cody's capable of, but I think Darby Allin having this kind of big stage to kind of play on with everybody watching, I thought it was obviously a very good thing for him at the same time.
I thought it made Cody look overconfident in what he was doing.
Really?
He came out like he's the much bigger individual. And we talked about their size last week, and Cody's not the biggest wrestler out there. He's not 240 pounds. He's roughly I don't know what they call them out.
A
Last
shy.
time.
I think you said last week he's a shy couple pounds over 205 live, pretty much.
Yeah, something around there. Let's see if they have his weight. It says his build weight is 220. I think that's a little high. I don't know what they call him out as on when he came out to the ring, but either way, they showed Cody as the bigger individual, as Darby Allin being a smaller one. Cody was doing push-ups in the ring at one time. Cody obviously looking a little bit. He is taller, he is bigger, but I thought it made Darby look stronger. If it made Cody look overconfident, it made Darby look capable of bringing down a bigger individual.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Doing the flashy moves, that they kept talking about, the announcers kept talking about, and ultimately bringing them to that draw, and not having a decisive winner is a unique aspect of AEW that we don't see too often in other promotions.
Yeah.
And this puts Cody's record at 1-0-1.
I think it was also a good thing for not only Darby Allin, because you look at it was a good thing for Darby Allin in the sense of, okay, yeah, this guy is bigger than me, more muscular than me, but you know what? You're not going to fucking pin me. I'm going to make you get the draw, if anything, so we both end up in the same, it's kind of the whole effect of, if I'm going to hell, I'm dragging you with me kind of deal, you know what I mean? So they that element was great, but at the same time, you mentioned how it's good for AEW. It definitely puts that kind of sport aspect into it. And when it came to a draw, I mean, I was absolutely like, that was awesome. That was a way better ending, because I did not want Darby Allin to lose at all.
It was interesting too that it looked like Cody Rhodes was trying to get overtime, which who knows, like, if that is going to be a thing in AEW as well,
yes.
Like a 5-minute overtime, like an actual sport.
Yeah, it's kind of like a sudden death kind of rule in a way.
Yeah, and I think that's who knows if they're going to change the rules a little bit too, and if that's going to be the norm, if certain matches will have a 5-minute overtime.
Yeah.
If it needs it, and whether it's over the top 10 count or
I think it would
standing kind of rules. I don't know, but
yeah, I think if anything, it would kind of be. We talk about. I was mentioning this last week how AEW has the whole referee's discretion rule, where they can, if you start going after them with chairs and weapons, it's up to the referee to kind of decide if should this match go on, should it be a DQ. So I think definitely with that, 5 more minutes kind of overtime rule, I kind of see it being the at the referee's discretion to kind of seeing if it wants to go on. But it definitely was a great way to end it. Asking for the 5 minutes was an awesome spot. And of course, then we come to what we all know as probably the spot of the week. I mean, this is kind of a little bit bigger than Braun and Lashley. So at the end of the match, we all know Cody Rhodes is asking for 5 more minutes. It comes to a draw. We don't know if it's going to happen or not. There's confusion going around. I think at one point the referee was about to start the bell up. And then we have Shawn Spears, formerly known as Ty Dillinger, come out and just gives the hardest fucking chair shot to Cody's head. We have not seen a chair shot, I think, since 2007. That was the last time Chris Benoit was alive. He obviously, we all know the tragic events that happened to that due to CTE, shots to the head, concussions, everything. So this has been kind of only been seen pretty much in the indie scene and not really recognized worldwide on a large scale like that. When that happened, I personally was not expecting it. I thought maybe, if anything, Cody would have put the hands up, before it hit. I think you had mentioned that over text at one point. But man, that was shocking as fuck. I mean, you obviously, we all just, I was speechless going, holy shit, like everyone else was in the crowd. Matt, what was your initial reaction to the chair shot and everything kind of leading up to it?
I was kind of taken back by it because of the fact that Cody did not put his hands up. I was a little nervous. I was like, whoa, like, okay, like, usually wrestlers will put their hands up if they're going to stop a chair shot, if they're going to take it to the head. Like, you see it in New Japan. They still kind of do the chair shots to the face maybe, but they'll put their hands up.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the indies, a lot of people will, but it's not really, like you said, a lot of it's been banned in other promotions where they're not going to take direct chair shots. And we talked about how The Rock was delivering that. I believe what was Mick Foley? He was or Mankind at the time. Was he handcuffed?
Oh,
and he
yes.
couldn't put that chair shot
Yes.
to his head.
He was handcuffed behind his back. It was the Royal Rumble 1999 against The Rock. It was an I Quit match. And I believe the number was, correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe it was 19 chair shots to the head. They were filming this documentary called Beyond the Mat, which is one of the greatest documentaries in my opinion. And it shows Mick Foley's wife and then his two kids, who his kids at the time were very, very young. And they're crying. They're literally crying in the crowd going, holy shit, I can't believe this is happening. They're in hysterics, and it's not a work at all. It was real. I mean, you look at those and you're like, God damn it, how does one guy take 19 shots to the head and still walk out at the end of the show saying, oh, daddy's all right, that's fine. But then you look at like just one shot alone on Cody Rhodes, and then the rumor was it was a gimmick chair and it just went the wrong way. Something went wrong. But then the chair shot happened. He goes down. I'm like, holy fuck, that was a stiff one. Like that hit right to the fucking skull, man. And then the blood starts pouring out from the back because it wasn't blading at all. It was they showed in slow motion how the chair kind of caught the back of his head and ripped it up. When that blood started pouring out, I was very, very confused, to be quite honest, because I went from, oh my God, that just happened, to shock, to being like, oh my God, chair shots, that's awesome, we haven't seen those in years. And then the blood starts pouring out. My first thought was, this just got botched to fucking hell. It was a very, very confusing thing, I think, for the viewers and people in attendance at the same time.
Yeah, and I think when I saw that chair shot, I was confused because he hit the left side of Cody's head. It looked like the way Cody turned his head too, as he was anticipating the chair shot, it also kind of caught part of his neck, which may have been intentional. Just as you watch it in slow-mo or you watch it again in a couple highlights, you'll see Cody kind of turn to the right, which exposes his left side a little bit more.
Yeah.
But a lot of confusion on why his right side of his head was ripped open. And as we know, it's because the chair got stuck on him as it actually, as they hit him. So I think it was when Shawn Spears pulled back, it probably cut him open that way.
Yeah.
I did see a couple different angles on some people's Twitter. Some Twitter feeds, and they did show a slight dent in the chair beforehand, exposing that it was a gimmick chair. And even after Tony Khan did have a press conference with the press, and did saying that Cody Rhodes was okay. And
it was funny when Tony Khan came out for that press conference after to talk about it, because it seemed like a lot of the performers were, especially the Young Bucks, were like, yeah, it was gimmicked and something went wrong, but you know what? That's what happens in the business and everything. It's going to happen, obviously, in other promotions at the same time if something goes wrong. And then Tony Khan comes out and he's looking like he's about to go on trial for murder. He's like, that will not happen anymore. Like, he was just so worried because it seemed like maybe they didn't even inform him it was going to really go, botches can happen like that, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and it's kind of the thing you want to, from your guy in charge, to go out there and talk about what just happened, and was your guy okay? Obviously, you don't want CTE to be happening in your company,
especially a new company that's starting from the ground up in front of everybody's eyes.
Yeah, and they did say that Cody Rhodes did not have a concussion. He did get some staples though.
I believe the number was 10 staples too. That is the confirmation. It was a perfect 10 staples.
Perfect 10 chair shot. Perfect 10 staples. It was 10 or 12 staples. I don't remember, but
I think the rumor was 12, and it came out. I think it might just be a work at this point on Cody's end. But Cody said it was. He's like, "Yep, it was 10 staples," and it was like, "Oh, that's poetry in motion right there," because it's definitely setting up something for All Out if we think about it.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get an answer on why Shawn Spears came out and did this. The way Cody played it off as if, what are you doing in the ring? We're friends, we're cool with each other, not anticipating getting hit in the head by someone that you're going to allow come to your company, and I mean, even confusion, I guess, for Cody is what drew and what sold it really well.
Yeah, and I think what also sold it very, very well at the same time was if you look at it after when he's on the ground, Sean Spears is staring at him, and then Brandy's on the ropes being like, "Stop! What are you doing? Oh my God, we're friends." It looked like he was gonna fucking go after her at the same time, and I've been watching that going, "Holy shit!" Like this is, yeah. Of course, we haven't seen a chair shot to the head in years. This is crazy. But then for him to kind of like, we think of Ty Dillinger as the baby face kind of coming out to save the day, and then you see that, and it was just a total. It was one of the best heel turns I had seen in a long time because you were kind of like, what in the fuck is going on? Because, obviously AEW plays in that whole social media reality kind of deal in a weird way. So you're seeing that and my whole thought was, this dude's a ruthless motherfucker now. Like this ain't Ty Dillinger from NXT. This is Sean Spears in AEW and he's here to make a statement.
Well, I think this is going to set up something else too. Maybe not with Cody right away, but with MJF, because at Fight for the Fallen, he's in a 6-man tag match, and one of his partners is MJF.
Yep, and then we also saw on the Being the Elite this past week at the backstage of Fyter Fest, it was Sean Spears going backstage to kind of leave the arena, and MJF is trying to get into it with him as well.
And I think that match is probably going to end not so well for Sean Spears, not Ty Dillinger anymore.
All right, so as we start to kind of wind down with our Fyter Fest review, the next match of the night, we had the Elite representing the Elite for this match. We had Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson coming out as Street Fighter characters, which I thought was pretty cool, defeating the Lucha Brothers and Ladero Kid. This match, I think, quite honestly, if I'm Dave Meltzer, I'm giving this 5 stars. This match was just packed full of great spots and great tag team action. I mean, I had never seen a Ladero Kid match at all.
I respectfully disagree.
See, and it's funny because when I was grading our scores live, for those who don't know, we have a Google document that kind of gives us an average of what the show was or matches, and we grade everything. And I gave this match a 97 out of 100. Your friend Colin, who helped review it with us, gave it a 97 as well. And it's funny because you gave it an 85. It's time for you to do some goddamn explaining because when you gave it an 85, I was like, okay, he's got some things to say about this, and I'm very interested to hear what they are.
I mean, it had really good spots. I think it was a fun, exciting match to watch. I really didn't want the Elite to win. I wanted to see Pentagon.
Yeah, I was with you on that.
I wanted to see Pentagon come out strong in this, as well as Phoenix, the two brothers from AAA. But Laredo Kid, wasn't really familiar with him, but seeing them do their moves, I thought everything was pretty smooth. I just think that maybe part of it seemed a little rushed, a little sloppy at some parts. Who fell during the ropes? I think that was Nick Jackson jumping up on the ropes, and he almost ate shit going outside. But the one thing I just want to comment to about that, is that if this was WWE, people would be chanting "You fucked up" so hard at Nick Jackson. But since it's AEW, they're like, and that's not that's the second time we saw someone mess up when they jumped on the ropes at Fyter Fest. But I just think, this makes it where the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros aren't over yet. This is not going to be their final rivalry match, and I think there's more to come. We'll see what happens when Cody and Dustin face them.
Yeah. There might be a run-in for sure coming in, I feel like.
Especially because, obviously, Cody is friends with the Young Bucks, and obviously they're all part of the Elite, but really it's more of the Lucha Bros versus the Elite at this point. I think this match what it did for me was show Kenny Omega's potential and what he can do, and not only, we saw him do his singles match versus Chris Jericho at Double or Nothing, and now you see him in a tag team match, and it just shows that he's an all-around great performer. And especially for the people who haven't had the opportunity to see him if you couldn't watch New Japan Pro, like me, I wasn't able. I had to watch everything through a YouTube stream or try to download it illegally, or look at gifs on Reddit or people posting on Vimeo or whatever they're going to post on, so I can watch it. But now I have an opportunity to see what he can do and see it all here in the United States, and I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we come to our final match of the night, which I was surprised this was the headlining match, or the main event, if you want to call it that. We had Jon Moxley, formerly known as Dean Ambrose, in his first match in AEW against Joey Janela in a hardcore, non-sanctioned street fight. I thought this match was awesome, great spots, but what I loved the most is not only the build-up to it, but how Justin Roberts, their announcer, came out and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Fyter Fest actual match card is officially over. However, this next match has not been sanctioned and whatever." It was this good kind of, you just felt like it was going to be a lot of great hardcore spots and this good build-up kind of barroom fucking brawl. And you and Colin gave this match a 95. I gave it a 90. I still enjoyed the hell out of it. Obviously, Moxley takes the win for it, but we kind of had a broader, kind of more condensed look at Janela at the same time, and they kind of built him up very, very well at the same time. I gotta say, I think my spot of the night has to be, and I don't remember if it was Moxley who took it or if it was Janela, but they took some guy's fake leg or fake foot and hit him over the head. And I remember watching that, like, this is like an updated version of ECW Bring Your Own Weapons show. I was like, this is so awesome. Of course, we see the tax too. Matt, I want to ask you, what was your favorite spot of the night during this match? Because quite honestly, there was a few of them, and it's kind of hard to pick out.
I think I have two favorite parts of this match, if I'm allowed to do that. Is that okay, Alex?
Oh, absolutely. I'll comment on both of them. Go right ahead.
All right, so they're both involving Joey Janela, the one with him jumping off the ladder through the table.
Yes.
He had some hang time. Saw a whole bunch of different angles, different pictures. It just looks fucking awesome. That elbow drop just looks crazy.
It definitely reminded me of like Jeff Hardy from like WrestleMania 2000 going through the table with Bubba Ray Dudley.
The second one from this match specifically, not the post match, but is when Janela is just looking up at Jon Moxley after he's already taken a beating and just laughing and smiling at him. And I think just shows how crazy, how crazy the bad boy Joey Janela is. But
the bad boy, yes.
Jon Moxley just giving it right to him. And eventually we see Jon Moxley do the same thing in the post match with Kenny Omega, but we'll get to that first. Let's get to your thoughts on, did you think this match was a little too edgy, or do you think that maybe this is what AEW should do every now and then? Obviously, you don't want to have these matches all the time. You don't want it to be 100% ECW. And I think they should save some of these things for big events, and maybe they do have to do unsanctioned, non-official match card. But what are your thoughts on the edginess of it?
I thought it was necessary. I kind of feel like with Double or Nothing happening as their first official show, that's kind of like their SummerSlam, if you want to call it that. All Out or All In is obviously always going to be their WrestleMania big show of the year. But I feel like with these in between shows, you look at Fight for the Fallen and Fyter Fest, they're kind of giving us a sample platter, I think, and in this match was a good sample of it, of what is to be expected. I don't think they're going to have this all the time. I think it's only going to be pulled out once in a while or once in a blue moon. But I definitely think they're giving us a sample platter of what's to come and what we could expect in later shows. This match, I thought it was awesome and enjoyed it. I definitely thought it was a little bit too gimmicky at the same time, but I kind of feel like they're going back to Moxley's roots of, he was the Joey Janela of the mid-2000s, and now Joey Janela is the Jon Moxley of the 2010s or the 2020s almost. So I feel like it was kind of weirdly appropriate for them to have this. A little bit too gimmicky? No, I think there were some spots that were kind of expected. My favorite spot the night, my favorite spot obviously was him going from the ladder to to the floor with the table. But when Moxley pulled out the second batch of thumbtacks, it kind of like, oh no, like I'm not over with this shit. Like you saw me in CCW, like I'm going back to my roots. That I thought was a great kind of callback to everything. So quite honestly, I would give this match, if it was a Meltzer kind of rating, definitely like a good 4 out of 5. Everyone was super invested in this, and it was just so fun to watch. But my thoughts on it are kind of like, it's these shows are kind of, obviously everything's new, we don't know what to expect from them. So they're kind of giving us a sample platter until the TV tapings start, and then, obviously the monthly or bi-monthly pay-per-views, whatever they're going to have. So I think it's kind of like a good sample of kind of what to expect from everything. Agree, disagree, thoughts?
No, I think this is this is the start of what is more to come, and I know that Cody previously stated that they will have a little bit more of maybe a TVMA pay-per-view themed kind of style going on certain pay-per-views, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, they're not going to have matches like this on live TV, and I think they're going to save it for pay-per-views, whether it's unsanctioned or a pay-per-view theme, kind of like a ECW One Night Stand or something like that, that we saw back in like 2006 or something. I hope maybe they do them in venues like that too. Kind of just you can tell there's a lot of people in the crowd, just with that AE dub chant. It's very similar to that ECW or EC dub chant that we used to hear back in the day.
Yeah, you're not hearing WWE chants at all.
Yeah, you hear NXT. I mean, you hear NXT on the main roster too when people do really great and Triple H comes out. But I think this is a reminder of a demographic that has felt left out for a while, and
yes,
we haven't had an opportunity to watch things like this, but this is just one match out of a whole match card, whereas CZW and other hardcore shows are all themed like that. And I think the balance of having good wrestling and having this match as separate is enough for the fans. I don't think we need to have everything like that all the time.
And I think, like you were saying, there's a demographic of these people or fans, who have kind of missed that, have been left out. I mean, you get that a lot. You get this kind of, these matches on the indie scene, the indie circuit, and somewhat in New Japan and Ring of Honor. But as far as, a broad scale like this, we haven't seen this in years. And it's kind of good to it's good for competition, yes, but it's also good to get that, for AEW to be like, hey, that demographic that you've been missing this, like, come on over here. Like, we got a little bit of that for you. So, of course, then we have the end of the match. Moxley goes over, takes the win, and everyone kind of expected that to kind of be his, first statement in AEW. But then what I did not expect at the same time was Kenny Omega coming out and just beating the living shit out of Moxley and kind of, doing his poetic justice to what Moxley did at Double or Nothing on Kenny Omega. I mean, we look at what happened at Double or Nothing. I mean, you had Moxley come out, he DDTs Jericho, DDTs the ref, DDTs Kenny Omega, and you're like, oh, this is great, and I'm thinking it's going to go off air. Fuck no, they go into the crowd, they're on the stage, he's DDTing him, or dirty D's him, whatever you want to call it, on, the gambling chips as, part of the piece for the set. So then Kenny Omega comes out at the end of this show and just pretty much does the same thing in his own style, and then we see, of course, Moxley laughing at the end, like, yeah, like, I want this, like, I've lived for this, I want you, Omega. Overall, I thought this was a great, great way to end the show, and especially in a poetic way if you want to, look at it from Double or Nothing leading up to their match at All Out coming up in August. Matt, your thoughts?
100% agree. I think that I did not see it coming. I thought it was just going to go off the air. I thought the show was over after it's already been told that it was over. But anyway, Kenny Omega coming out there and doing his thing, and he was just so fluid. Everything he hit was perfect, and it kind of puts fans at a weird perspective of who do I really want to become victorious from this. Like you have the people who love the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega and Cody, and then you have the fans who are all about the Jon Moxley era, and the former Dean Ambrose, and now we're seeing what he can fully do to his potential. But
yeah,
you got this clash of two individuals I think you want to see be successful, and now they're going to face each other, and it just puts fans at a, who are you rooting for in this situation? I mean, it's kind of similar as like that Rock and Stone Cold thing. Like,
absolutely.
I like both people. Maybe I just want to see great wrestling, but you want to see at least one of them come victorious. And I hope they show up more on YouTube videos leading up to Fight for the Fallen or All Out.
Yeah. I think it's definitely going to be, especially on Being the Elite, we're going to see a lot more of Moxley and Kenny Omega going back and forth too.
Yeah, I thought it was a great way to end the match, and the pay-per-view.
And I thought it was a great way to end. Yeah, absolutely. And overall, I think we all kind of agreed that this pay-per-view was a good B+. It definitely wasn't built up as a huge big special, but it definitely was a great, fun, solid show to see. Definitely, I don't think one we're gonna be remembering as one of the standouts from years to come. But as far as a filler show, until these, Fyter Fest and Fight for the Fallen, these are kind of filler shows to get us through till All Out to keep interested, and of course till the TV tapings.
Right.
But overall, this was a great filler, and I wouldn't even call it a filter. Just an overall fun, great pay-per-view that everyone enjoyed watching.
And it was free for everyone to watch too, so I think that's a big plus. As far as things they've improved on from Double or Nothing, camera angles were a big concern during Double or Nothing. They miss a lot of big spots because the camera wasn't looking in the right direction, or they cut away too soon and you miss part of a move. I think they fixed a lot of that at this pay-per-view, or I guess Bleacher Report live free stream. One thing I did notice, I listened to it on surround sound, and one of the cameras, or multiple cameras, had a little bit of an issue with their microphone, and kept kind of hearing it like someone was hitting it. And that was just constant through the whole entire stream. But otherwise, they're in the growing phase, and their growing pains are going to happen, and they're going to keep improving. Obviously, they're not going to come out stellar. WWE has been doing this for years and decades, actually. So they've mastered, and they know the art of doing all this stuff, and AEW will get there eventually.
Yeah, and I think one good thing to point out from SteelRealToUs.com is reporting that, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, the show was considered a success on Bleacher Report Live, and it averaged 140,000 viewers. A total of 350,000 people tuned in during the live show, with more watching the replay. I mean, that is just great numbers right there, even just for AEW quote-unquote special, if you want to call it that. Just overall, I think they're hitting on all cylinders. They got some kinks to work out still, especially the whole librarian angle. I was, and I think they're gonna listen to fans when fans are like, yeah, we kind of don't want that. But overall, I think this was just for a special, a pay-per-view, whatever you want to call it. Good, solid B+, good to keep us interested in, and just fun as fuck to watch,
Yep, I agree. But with that being said of AEW, let's switch gears and we'll recap WWE for this week.
All right, so we have Raw taking place on the 1st of July. We obviously have already talked about Lashley and Braun. Should we elaborate any more on that, Matt?
No, I think this was a solid way to start the event on July 1st in Dallas. Wow, I can't talk today, man. This was a great way to start the event in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
They came out strong. If I were rating this match itself, I would probably give it 100 out of 100.
Yeah.
Definitely. I did feel like the Raw did fall short right after. With this whole new no wrestling in between commercial breaks, I don't know why all of a sudden this is being implemented when for years you have been able to pull it off and you were able to get your timing right. Smackdown Live has a little feed at the bottom of a commercial that they can still have people able to watch what's going on while you're still having an advertisement playing. I'm not sure why Vince McMahon is inputting this no wrestling during the commercial break, because now you get all these matches that are either best 2 out of 3 somebody runs in and changes the match, or something happens on the side of the arena, on the side of ringside, and all of a sudden like the match gets restarted. When that's the kind of what's happening here with the New Day versus the Viking Raiders, and then all of a sudden Samoa Joe and the Samoa Joe versus the New Day, and Samoa Joe teams with the Viking Raiders, and it's kind of just a strange thing that's not necessary. Why not just have the match, the New Day versus Samoa Joe and the Viking Raiders, without having the stoppage and do all this stuff in between? Because the first match was kind of blah, and it was okay, but the second part of the match, the restart of it with the 6-man match, the 3-on-3, was actually really good and a strong finish when Samoa Joe comes out, and that's probably one of the the second biggest highlight, maybe except for the main event, is when Samoa Joe puts him in the coquina clutch and puts Kofi Kingston to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely when the first match was going on, I was kind of like, all right, this is good way to kind of start off, especially like, you look at Braun and Lashley, that whole moment. Like I was telling you over text, that's definitely a top 10 or maybe top 5. That's going to be a big moment in Raw history for sure. So that kind of, it kind of felt like the show dwindled down a little bit after that, but you got to understand, like to put something like that and just shock value right up front, it's kind of like, oh man, like this is a thing.
But what did it do? It got people talking on Twitter. It got you and me texting each other. And, people are going to start tuning in because they're like, oh shit, did you see what happened on Raw? Corey Graves dropping the holy shit.
Yeah, when that happened, I was like, I'm trying to watch, Lashley and the whole Braun pyro going up, and my jaws drop, like, oh my god, this is what's going on right now. Then also I just hear Corey Graves like, holy shit, and I was like, my jaw was to the floor at that point. I was like, whoa, like what is happening right now? Like, is this real? Like, obviously it's a total work, the whole moment, but a great work. But when you hear all those combustible elements go together, even I was questioning at one point, like, what the fuck just happened? Especially the side camera angle and everything going on. So then, you get a match like the War Raiders when Samoa Joe versus the New Day after. And it was a good, solid match for sure. But it definitely, that first moment kind of took away from the rest of the show. But man, like, I'm okay with that because that moment was just amazing. Matt, where do you want to go next within the show as we try to wrap up our Raw review?
I think the mid-hour, the second hour was kind of dry. One of the low points was the 2 out of 3 match between The Miz and Elias, and best 2 out of 3. And
I thought that was just a shitty match overall, to be quite honest with you.
It was a repeat of what happened on SmackDown. However, one thing I do want to give a shout out to The Miz for was that I finally saw someone win with the figure 4. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes.
Anyway,
definitely.
We'll go into Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, teaming up as a tag team for that intergender match versus Mike and Maria Kanellis.
The burial of the fucking century, as I'm calling this. Continue.
It was a very interesting match to call it the least. I wasn't really sure what. It's kind of strange because Mike Kanellis not been on the main roster in ever, like a long time, since maybe when they first debuted.
Yeah.
He goes to 205 Live. He starts making his presence known down there. Of course, he still has Maria as his manager. She's not really wrestled in WWE for a while, and somewhat through that match, she drops this bomb on Mike Kanellis, and
the whole pregnancy angle.
Yeah, so she drops to the world that she's pregnant as Becky Lynch is about to hit her, which kind of was okay. The crowd reaction was kind of dry, but turns out that that's actually legit. She is pregnant.
Yeah.
WWE.
It's kind of real life playing into their storyline.
WWE did not know about that until after they had signed their 5-year contract or their multi-year contract. And then she just absolutely buried her husband.
Oh, God.
Saying that Becky Lynch is more of a man than Mike Kanellis was. Or is.
And she should have gotten impregnated by Becky or something along those lines. And it was definitely kind of like oh shit. Like if I was in that crowd, I would have been like, oh shit. But watching it at home, I was like, okay, that was a little bit. Yeah, I get why they said that. That was kind of edgy and cool, but like, what was going on with the storyline? Because we saw 205 Live the week before, where Mike Kanellis was walking out like, "You tell him I'm done." Like, we shouldn't have re-signed, and then they go into this. I'm like, "Oh, it's gonna be cool. He's on the main roster again." And then she does that, and it was kind of confusing for me. But then the burial, cherry on top is he gets back in the ring and Becky Lynch makes him tap out to the disarmer. And the whole time I was like,
Disarm him.
This guy, disarm him. Exactly. And the whole time, dude, I'm watching it and I'm like, I thought it was cringy. I was not feeling it. I was like, man, like this poor son of a bitch, but maybe they have bigger plans for him. Like, I don't know at all.
That's Maria Kanellis' bitch.
Yeah, well, obviously at this point we all know that. I think a quick talking point before we get to the end of the show with AJ and Ricochet. The Shane and Undertaker promo was rumored all night. Of course, the Undertaker was in Dallas and was going to come out and cut a promo, and I thought it was okay at best. I think definitely, I'm not. I've always loved the Undertaker, but I'm kind of, my personal opinion is I'm kind of not. I don't want to say getting sick of seeing him, but
I thought it was boring.
Yeah,
I lost interest in it. Just staring at him and Shane and McIntyre just staring at the Undertaker, and thought the Undertaker's promo was kind of on the weaker side of things I've seen, and nothing other than the lightning striking the ring post. I didn't see anything too significant coming out of this promo.
Yeah,
Just thought it was
exactly.
kind of dry.
I gave it an okay at best, and that's kind of me giving it a little bit of leeway and being like, okay, well, it's the Undertaker, so it's okay, it's fine. But yeah, I agree with you. It was pretty boring. To wrap up the Raw review, then we had, of course, a rematch from the previous week. We had AJ Styles versus Ricochet for the, I believe, was this a title match? I believe it was for the United States title.
Affirmative. Yes, it was for the United States Championship.
Yeah, and of course, the match overall I thought was, I'm going to say that, and people are going to hate me. I love AJ. I almost said AJ Lee for some weird reason. That's weird. I loved it being between AJ and Ricochet. And I thought last week's match was boring as well. And I was thinking, you know what, maybe they'll go into it a little bit more and the storyline's going to build. Thought the match was just pretty much boring. I think everyone was kind of, burnt out from, the 3-hour show. But then, of course, we have at the end AJ turning heel and kind of reforming the WWE's version of the club. Kind of like it. I've always liked heel AJ. I've always liked anything he kind of does, but it kind of feels like they're just doing this to keep Gallows and Anderson under contract and make them somewhat happy by saying, okay, well, we'll put you with the top guy on Raw. Like, don't worry about it.
Well, it's rumored that they already have signed some type of contract, and we know that AJ Styles has, but I don't think this is a result of the Heyman era or anything like that. I think this is something that's been building up since AJ Styles has come back from his injury.
Oh yes, it was reported that even though Paul Heyman's fingerprints were all over this Raw show, that the AJ heel turn with the reformation of the quote unquote club, that's been planned for a long time in advance.
Now all I gotta do is get Finn Balor in there, and we're set, and I'll be 100% happy.
Oh Jesus Christ! If Finn turned heel, I would do cartwheels. I think it's just such a long time coming because his heel run, especially in New Japan as Prince Devitt, just amazing. Matt, I think next to kind of wrap up, I think to kind of give this show, I give it a good. I'm gonna give it a solid B, just because that opening segment was just awesome.
I agree. And it was enough to keep me interested and, go back and watch some of the clips again. And, even though I might have, fell asleep during the 1.5 to 2 hour mark, I think that last match was pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some interesting stuff from Maria Kanellis. So I think overall it was a solid B. But I think leading into the next day, Smackdown, I would also give that a solid B overall.
Yeah, I would give it a good, in my opinion, a good B minus. I thought it was just average, to be quite honest.
I think the low point was probably the Kevin Owens show featuring Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. I just think it was boring. Not much going on with that.
I liked it. I actually enjoyed it. Only for KO though. Only for Kevin Owens, because anything he does promo wise when he's trying to be funny is just gold in my opinion.
See, I think Kevin Owens was better in the main event later on, but I just sometimes I don't like seeing too many promos and too many shows. Like, everybody's got their own show and it's not special anymore. It happens all the time. How many moment of blisses do we need? And I think Kevin Owens show, and then Sami Zayn's got his. Yeah, Miz TV.
Corey Graves had that weird, like, kind of electrical chair. It's just way too much. Everyone's just getting a gimmick show. I mean, the best, in my opinion, everyone's gonna say Piper's Pit or the Barbershop, but mine, for sure, had always been. I forgot what the hell it was called. It was the one that Chris Jericho did, like, way back in the mid 2000s with the Jeritron 3000. That was the best one for me. All right, where do you think we should go next in this SmackDown review as we try to wrap this up?
Well, I think Daniel Bryan versus Big E was okay. Nikki Cross and her moment of bliss with Bayley turning into a match was also just okay at best. But the Samoa Joe and Kofi Kingston kind of just face to face, and some of the stuff that's going on there was probably the highlight of SmackDown itself. Samoa Joe demanding that handshake, respect me, and Kofi Kingston with that little non-PG era flip the bird,
giving him a little Stone Cold salute for sure.
I thought that was a good little tension going on there. I think that was the biggest highlight of the night for me. And then just moving forward, Andrade versus Apollo Crews. I thought this was strong for Andrade. What I did like about this match was they brought something back that you haven't seen in a while, and that was how Zelina Vega gets involved in the match. And she did that Hurricanrana off the apron, jumped onto Apollo Crews and kind of threw him into the announcer table. And I haven't really seen that since NXT. And I like the utilization of her because she is a wrestler. She knows how to wrestle. And if she can be that, that dirty manager that can help Andrade win, then let's do it. Let's see it. Let's make Andrade stand out more. And hopefully eventually he does have a title run in WWE. And I think he would look great with the Intercontinental title, even if I am a part of Balor Club. But sometimes you got to drop the title to somebody who's a heel.
Yeah, most definitely. And to wrap this review up, I give it a good, at best, I give it a good B minus, maybe a C plus. It was a good filler episode for sure, with some highlights here and there. But it definitely had too much hype around it, especially the whole Eric Bischoff coming in as an executive director. And we know that Paul Heyman's fingerprints were all over the Raw the previous night, but Eric Bischoff was kind of taking a slower progression into his role. So, there was definitely like too much hype around it, which is, definitely necessary to get people talking. But I give it a good, if I was going to give it my honest opinion, C plus for sure.
Yep, I'll give it a B. I'll be nice to them this week.
I'll be nice to them. All right, and to wrap up episode 2, guys, Matt, obviously I did not get to see much of NXT this week. Give me your highlights and score of that, and what did you think about this week's NXT? I know that before we went to record this, you were like, you got to watch this. If you didn't watch all of NXT, you got to watch this promo vignette, that Adam Cole did of going back to Johnny Gargano's house, which I thought was fucking awesome and incredible. So let me hear your thoughts on this week's NXT, Matt.
All right, so Maya Yim continues her path as she's aiming for that NXT championship. I think she is a good contender against Shayna Baszler. I do think that Shayna Baszler will ultimately come out victorious if she does go one-on-one with Maya Yim. But started off her match, it was kind of quick against Aaliyah, and it's just showing that path to glory for her as she's continuing. The crowd is behind her. And the crowd needs to.
It definitely was a slow build for Maya, and then especially seeing her at NXT Takeover 25. I know you were there. Even the crowd was definitely behind her as well, and they're starting to get behind her even more.
Yep, 100% agree. Kushida, his match, he's been pretty strong coming into NXT. The crowd is definitely behind him, but this was kind of a squash match, and I kind of lost interest in it. What I did like was
Who did he go against, if you don't mind me asking?
he went against Jeff Parker.
So kind of a jobber NXT first time on TV kind of type of deal.
Yeah, pretty much. It was kind of just an indie tag team guy apparently.
Oh, okay.
But going into the breakout tournament, I thought that this match was phenomenal. I'm loving the breakout tournament that they're doing. We'll see where it goes. Last week's was pretty good. This week I thought was also really good. The crowd was behind. What's his name? The crowd was behind Isaiah Swerve Scott. But the whole 100%, they were chanting Swerve. And
he has this spot in one of these Viceland documentaries about building up the indie scene and wrestlers teaching other wrestlers. And when he was announced for the tournament, I didn't even know he got signed to NXT, but I was like, holy shit, that's Swerve, and I'm behind him 100%. He is a great performer.
Yep, and he actually lost to
that's a great
Cameron Grimes.
That's a great way to go after my comment.
He lost to Cameron Grimes, but overall it was a fun match, and there's a lot of big spots, and they kept me entertained the entire time. And I think this breakout tournament is gonna show the world a lot of people who are really good, and hopefully NXT, even though they might not win the breakout tournament, maybe they're gonna get signed anyway. Same way that Tough Enough kind of signed a bunch of people like Mandy Rose and so on.
And it's definitely one of the things where
those things as well.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of the things where we look at how many people are signed to WWE and not enough of them get time. This is a great way to kind of, take the people who maybe haven't had the limelight on them and be like, you know what, show us what you can do. Like, let's have fun with this. And definitely from the way you're describing it, it sounds like it's a great idea for sure.
And moving along with the show, Bianca Belair coming back, showing off that she is, one of the top women in NXT. She was able to defeat Priscilla Zuniga pretty easily, and show that she deserves to be on top as well. And hopefully she will be back in that title picture again. Her match with Mia Yim, the crowd was kind of against her, but now I feel that the crowd is also cheering her again, and they're kind of behind her.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just kind of, we like both people, and we're going to cheer for the one that we want to see be more successful because they haven't had opportunity as much. But hopefully she'll get thrown back in that title picture, and she deserves to be. She's put in a lot of effort in. I think she deserves to be one of those main eventers. The last match of NXT was Tyler Breeze versus Roderick Strong, and Roderick Strong ended up being victorious in this. A little run-in by Bobby Fish, the undefeated era. Undisputed era.
It's going to be undefeated, man. You watch. They're going to go right to the top of that main roster.
I was reading Strong defeated Breeze, and it just came out. Anyway, undisputed era helping each other out, which is what they got to do as a good stable. And, if you're not there to help out your buddies or trick people like Adam Cole did, where you think they're going to come out, then why would you even be in a stable? And I think they utilized this perfectly. Bobby Fish just came out just to cause a distraction. He didn't actually do anything, but just enough to annoy Tyler Breeze and throw him off his game and allow Roderick Strong to overcome and eventually get that 1-2-3 for the victory. And it just shows that the Undisputed Era, hopefully they are headed for all the gold like they intended.
Yes, and, absolutely.
If anything, I think this NXT definitely just improves WWE overall. I mean,
like it always does.
Show. Yeah, 100%. It's always been the great product they've been putting out, and I don't know if it's Triple H himself or just the writing team that's there, but I don't know. We'll see what happens with the changes that are coming, but overall, this was a great show, and I would give it an A.
Hell yeah. And just by the way you're describing it and the performers on the card, I would give that an A if I probably saw it as well, too.
But that promo. I think that promo. The vignette, I guess.
Vignette promo, we can call it either or. I mean, quite honestly, you were like, because right before we were recording this, you're like, you got to go watch this. Like, it was great. And I was like, all right, I'll go check it out. And then just every spot in that, I mean, definitely the one that made me laugh the most, which it wasn't supposed to be for laughter, but I laughed because it's just with those weird ticks in me where I was like, oh, this is great, is when he's at the wrestling school and he starts kind of getting choked up. He's like, it broke my heart that Johnny, da-da-da-da, and putting, his signed picture on the wall of Johnny Gargano and his father's pizza shop. I thought that was just a good way to, even though we not see Johnny right now, he's kind of taking some time off from NXT to heal up. It was a great way to kind of keep that, he already jabbed the knife in Johnny's back with taking the NXT title. And now he's just twisting like, come on, Johnny, like come back out to play, come back out. And I thought it was one of the best promos I've seen all year for sure.
Yep. And I think that this is the kind of thing that NXT does better than WWE. This little vignette doesn't require much, just requires someone to go with Adam Cole to go film something. And just to go into the pizzeria and kind of just troll his father, Johnny Gargano's father, and just, hey, like, here's a champion you could be proud of, and let's put that on your Hall of Fame over there on the wall. And, just like you said, that little stab to Gargano and just, kind of turning the knife slowly as Gargano can't do anything at this moment. And it's just a perfect heel vignette that I think, this is the kind of shit that WWE needs to start implementing on their weekly show.
Yes.
And
I think a good thing about the promo is, you look at stuff on the main roster. I mean, you have Firefly Funhouse, which is great, and the Aleister Black promos I love. But, you look at a lot of their vignettes and stuff, it's so overproduced to a T that it's not even enjoyable. And you look at, it doesn't feel organic or raw, no pun intended, but you look at something like this Adam Cole vignette, it's just so simple that's just what we need. We don't need something overproduced and flashy everything. It's just, just walk in there and kind of be a cocky asshole and then walk out, because it's going to make people still interested, because that's the character you're trying to portray,
Yeah, and tell a bunch of people out of wrestling school that they're never going to hold the NXT championship and then walk away.
Oh, yes.
And then just make them feel like shit. It just, if anything, it gets more of a incentive for Johnny Gargano to come back and win that championship back from Adam Cole. If that is the case, if that is what's going to happen, then I hope that's when Undisputed Era would be called up. But I don't want them to lose what they are able to do right now in NXT, since I love every moment of any Undisputed Era match or little vignette.
Yes, absolutely, man. I really hope he doesn't get that title taken away from him until at least maybe the takeover before WrestleMania. All right, so to kind of wrap up episode 2, guys, I know this coming week we don't have any pay-per-views. Next week we definitely will for sure. Well, we have, of course, AEW's Fight for the Fallen. I think it's going to be a great pay-per-view. Then we have Extreme Rules the night after. I mean, as much as we're just going to be reviewing TV for this coming week, which is always super interesting, Matt, you must be excited to see at least 2 pay-per-views, if you want to call them that, for next weekend for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm probably not going out on Saturday night, and then Sunday rolling into work next day, I'll probably be pretty tired.
For sure, man. All right, I know that we have some interviews getting lined up right now, guys, for all of our new listeners out there, but we'll keep you guys updated. Of course, we have our Twitter, at HTRW Podcast is our Twitter. We might have a Instagram at some point for sure. You can follow my personal Instagram account at couple_of_Taytos. That is TAYTOS. Matt, you want to plug yourself real quick?
And I am at Yo Cali, Yo_Cali, CALI. I'll be found on Instagram as well as Twitter.
And there you go, guys. All right, everyone. We will see you next weekend. Of course, we will be reviewing Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and whatever else news and rumors pop up. And then following week, we're going to have a good fucking solid episode, especially with Fight for the Fallen and Extreme Rules coming up. So we'll see you guys next week, and thank you for listening. This has been Hitting the Ropes Podcast, and this is our second back bump, and we're taking it better. We'll see you next weekend.